So, for those of you who do not know, the mysterious Mr. Enter is a cartoon reviewer with a reputation, to say the least. He has his fans, and he has become more well-liked with time, but a lot of people see him as a bad reviewer who misses the point of what he's talking about and takes cartoons too seriously. Enter Meta Runner XLR, who I will call Meta or Runner for the sake of my own convenience. So Meta Runner covered Mr. Enter's review of the Rick and Morty episode Pickle Rick, which was the first part of Mr. Enter's unpopular opinion series, and I did not like Meta Runner's video, to say the least. Now, before I begin, I'd like to say that I am aware of the fact that a lot of other people have covered Meta Runner in the past, but as far as I can tell, no one has hit his video on Mr. Enter yet, so that's why I made this video in the first place. Okay, now I can begin.
Cheese.
Hello people, Nintendo Switch Gamer Dude here, bringing you a commentary on mysterious Mr. Enter's Rick and Morty animated atrocity review of Pickle Rick.
Yeah, this video is so old to the point where the video's creator has changed his name. So yeah, I can't wait to be bombarded by comments saying, this video is too old to cover.
I will say, he does explain his reasoning, though granted iDubbbz does, and that's why my commentary on him sucks. I'm still going to give my 2 cents on it.
Not gonna lie, Meta Runner, I don't think you should do a mumbling bit if your mumbling is dang near incomprehensible.
Cheese.
The biggest problem with this episode is very simple. Pickle Rick's simple problem is that it's not simple. I've actually been trying to analyze why season 3 of Rick and Morty ended up so bad. It shouldn't be so hard to take science fiction concepts and then just joke about them. And then I realized, in season 3 Rick and Morty stopped doing that. Rick mancing the stone is not making fun of a Mad Max future, or having any fun with a Mad Max future. It's a character study of Summer and how she's doomed to repeat her mother's marital mistakes.
A little side note there. While there was an attempt to put science in there, science accidentally got in there. Pickles are great conductors of electricity. A brain-charged electrical current on a cockroach in a rat's brain is plausible. However, Dad does have the point about soap poisoning things since pickles are high on sodium and too much isn't good for the brain. By the way, go to Matt Pat's Phil Philly on the Pickle Rick episode. There's more ideas from Dan's point of view.
What do pickles being high in sodium and great conductors of electricity have to do with anything? I'm guessing that Meta Runner is mentioning the fact that pickles can conduct electricity because Mr. Enter said that Rick and Morty mocks science fiction tropes, but with pickles conducting electricity, that's not science fiction. People have made light bulbs with pickles. I was able to find a full video by a channel called Action Lab about making a light bulb with pickles, link in the description below. So why mention all these scientific pickle facts when Enter is talking about science fiction?
Goes out of its way, specifically to be not fun. Vindicator 3 isn't a big fun superhero time, it's about how the idea of the superhero is a lie, and they'd actually be shitty celebrity people. Great analysis, guys. It's not, we haven't been hearing that since 2008.
Long comes Hancock.
Oh my god.
I don't remember that.
The ABC's of Beth isn't about exploring a childhood wonderland turned perverted. It's about Beth's annoying family issues. Let me ask you this. What if we had an episode of Ed, and Eddie where, after failing to scam the kids again, the Eds got in trouble and we got to see the abusive home lives that each of them had? It'd be very deep. It had character analysis. It'd be story-driven. And it would be absolutely horrible. It would ruin the show. And it's the reason that they let that kind of stuff in the finale movie. Because the longer an injury or consequence lasts, the less funny that it can be. Ed, and Eddie is a simple show that was not designed to hold up heavy character weight in deep analysis. So it didn't.
While that example works, it doesn't work here. Because having deeper meaning is a driving force for a writer.
No, it really isn't. I mean, having a deeper meaning can be a driving force for a writer, you know, in shows that are driven by story and characters, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it is a driving force. And the Ed, and Eddie comparison makes sense as a comparison because Ed, and Eddie is a comedy show about 3 kids on a cul-de-sac that scammed their neighbors in order to get jawbreakers. Therefore, it is a simple show. And yes, I know that not every episode of Ed, and Eddie involves buying jawbreakers, but you know what I mean. The comparison between Rick and Morty and Triple E also makes sense because his point is that they are both simple, and he likes both of them because they are both simple. Also, can I just mention how the sped up footage of Mr. Enter is kinda choppy sounding? Like, I understand why Meta Runner sped up the footage. It's because because so then the footage doesn't drag on. But he really should think about how the footage sounds before he uploads a video with that footage in it. Just saying.
I think Dad might be just making fun of the idea as a satire. Granted, I have no proof of this, but I'm starting to think that was what he was going for.
Ah yes, the creator of Rick and Morty was being so satirical, hence why he has a long, drawn-out scene of therapy.
Rick, the only connection between your unquestionable intelligence and the sickness destroying your family is that everyone in your family, you included, use intelligence to justify sickness. You seem to alternate between viewing your own mind as an unstoppable force and as an inescapable curse.
And I think it's because the only truly unapproachable concept for you is that it's your mind within your control.
Like this character, Dr. Wong, is talking in such a straightforward and monotonous way. I genuinely cannot see this as satire, for satire involves making fun of something. And if you're referring to something else when you say that the creator is being satirical, then I just don't know what you're referring to, because the wording is so vague.
Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
And you know what other show falls right into that category? Rick and Morty. And despite not really being able to hold any sort of depth, Rick and Morty has been digging so deep that it's basically hit the septic tank. Pickle Rick is what happens when you take a simple show that was not designed to hold up the heavy character weight and deep analysis, and you put both of those things in it, and you screw the pooch as well. It is currently my least favorite episode of the show, which is actually saying something when I get more and more selections to choose from. Someone once said that a house divided against itself cannot stand. Not sure who, I think it was Donovan. And a house divided against itself is a very good way of describing Pickle Rick. It's divided into two halves, neither of which are good. The A plot is about Rick turning himself into a pickle and going on an adventure full of ultra violence.
Big reveal, I'm a pickle. What do you think about that? I turned myself into a pickle!
That the show already did and did much better during Look Who's Perching Now. And even that was one of the lesser episodes of season 2. The other half is the family going to a therapist in the most tedious fucking television that I've ever seen in my life.
It's not my job to take sides or pass judgment. Do you think when your father asks for that syringe, you could ask him?
You don't have to ask for it, okay? He won't need it. He'll just make more. He doesn't need anything from anyone.
You admire him for that.
And both of these plots make the other one worse. Let's start with the obvious problem, and that's with the tone. Personally, I wish 22-minute cartoons didn't have subplots. If your story doesn't have enough meat for a full 22 minutes, bite the bullet and become a show with 2 11-minute segments per episode. Especially when they only come together at the end like this one. Or even worse, when they never come together at all except for a gag, like The Simpsons and Family Guy are prone to do. But let's say you gotta have a subplot instead of a story where 22 minutes. The two stories should be about something similar. That's my A standard. You get an A for doing that. A C standard, a passing grade, is having them balance each other out. And upon first glance, it looks like the two plots here do that. The Pickle Rick segment of the episode is fast-paced and full of intense action and hardcore brutality. It can actually be quite gross, seeing Rick bite the head off of a cockroach. It would be nice to have a bit of a break from that. And the therapist storyline does do that. It's slow and quiet and tedious. The problem is that it's too slow and quiet and tedious. It's like being on a vehicle that goes 60 miles per hour, and then it just stops. When Rick is going fast and hardcore as he is, and we cut to the therapist segments feel twice as slow. The therapist segments drag in isolation with Wong's droning voice, but it is even more of a slog to get through in between Rick's action scenes. These two pieces do not go together, and for more obvious reasons than just the tone of problems, which I think most audience members picked up on. Like I said earlier, the two plots are about something similar, it's doing what subplots are supposed to do.
Considering that one is over the top and the other is down to earth, I think it works because it feels like a bungee ride, going up and down in these two plots.
You really think that Enter doesn't know that? He already explained that he understands that stories are supposed to balance each other out.
But let's say you gotta have a subplot instead of a story worth 22 minutes. The two stories should be about something similar. That's my A standard. You get an A for doing that. A C standard, a passing grade, is having them balance each other out. And upon first glance, it looks like the two plots here do that. The Pickle Rick segment of the episode is fast-paced and full with intense action and hardcore brutality. It could actually be quite gross, seeing Rick bite the head off of a cockroach. It would be nice to have a bit of a break from that, and the therapist storyline does do that. It's slow and quiet and tedious. The problem is that it's too slow and quiet and tedious. It's like being on a vehicle that goes 60 miles per hour, and then it just stops. When Rick is going fast and hardcore as he is, and we cut to the therapist segments feel twice as slow. The therapist segments drag in isolation with Wong's droning voice, but it is even more of a slog to get through in between Rick's action scenes.
So why are you telling him something that he already knows?
Sometimes we need to stop thinking to not get a headache and then think again to psychoanalyze.
Alright, well, that's just your opinion. Meanwhile, Enter thinks differently. Opinions don't debunk other opinions, so this is like watching two kids argue over which color is better. And I'd be fine with Meta using his own opinions and commentaries if it wasn't for the fact that Meta is just offering another perspective instead of arguing against what Enter's points are.
And to be honest, I consider this a good episode because Rick is a pickle, and pickles are hilarious.
Let me guess, they're hilarious because they look like dick.
You wouldn't find it entertaining if you didn't find Pickle's entertaining.
How is a pickle entertaining though? It does literally nothing. No, but for real? Really? People are only going to be entertained by this episode if they're entertained by pickles? Really? Cause like, I can see why people would be entertained by this episode even if they don't like pickles. It has violence in it, which doesn't appeal to Mr. Enter personally, but violence still appeals to a lot of other people. Why else are action movies still popular? And this episode is also trying to deconstruct Rick as a character, which can be entertaining to others. Enter says that this episode is failing at doing that, but it still tries to do that. And audiences can be entertained by that because it's trying to analyze a character psychologically. After all, one of the main reasons why a movie like Joker became successful is because people want to understand the motives of a madman. And for all you know, Mr. Enter might actually like pickles, ergo finding them entertaining, I guess. Like, what does it even mean to be entertained by a pickle anyway? Well, that just goes back to my vague wording point though.
Cheese.
Pickle Rick is about himself turning into a pickle. Why did he turn himself into a pickle?
I'm just trying to figure out why you would do this. Why anyone would do this. The reason anyone would do this, if they could, which they can't, would be because they could, which they can't.
Okay, what is the therapist part of the episode about? Oh, explaining Rick and why he does what he does, and really analyzing his character. You cannot have one half of an episode that says, don't think about this, while the other half says, really think about what this guy does. Look deep into his character. Meanwhile, this guy, the smartest guy in the universe, has turned himself into a pickle, rather than, I don't know, walking down the street and hiding in a bush. Sure, Rick likes to overcomplicate things, but there is no logical reason that would specifically turn himself into a pickle rather than something more practical. And I can ignore lack of logic if the episode wasn't trying to make me examine his life logically.
Stop digging for hidden layers and just be impressed. I'm a pickle.
I was gonna do that as this episode brought up the point that I should analyze how you
Yeah, I think you're thinking about this a little too hard. Here's an idea. What if he was attempting to troll the audience by going back and forth with this?
Ah yes, Rick is definitely trying to troll the people in the audience. You know, the audience that he doesn't even know exists because he's a friggin' fictional character. Alright, that was far too angry. Like, yeah, I've heard of that one theory about Rick being aware of his existence as a fictional character, but that's literally just a theory. And if you mean that the creator is trying to troll the audience, then that's just unfortunate wording on your end, because Rick was just brought up, and therefore your wording implies that Rick is trying to troll the audience.
Dan has a way of controversial things that shouldn't be dissected. In this case, he wants us to focus on what's easy to analyze.
If the creator wanted it to be easy to analyze, then what's the point of the subplot that asks, why does Rick do what he does? Rick is even taken to therapy, where his character and motives are analyzed. And sure, there might be more reasons for thinking that this is easy to analyze, but Meta doesn't give us those reasons, so I can't really understand his point if there is more to it.
I mean, as someone who has watched illogical things with simple and easy logic, I think not everything matters.
Mr. Enter also thinks that not everything matters. He even said that he could ignore the episode's logic if the episode wasn't telling him to analyze it.
Stop digging for hidden layers and just be impressed. I'm a pickle.
I was gonna do that until this episode brought up the point that I should analyze how you tick. Okay, this is another thing that absolutely needs to be said. Beth, and Jared, but especially Beth. To death. Them to death. It's called Rick and Morty. That is what I want to see. Or Rick and Morty in Sometime Summer. That's what the season 3 opener promised, but no, it's going into Beth and Jerry's marital problems. Beth and Jerry should not be on the show, ever. I do not give a shit about their marital problems. And I don't know anybody else who does either. Every single time they're on the screen, I want to punch the damn thing. It is antithetical to the strengths of Rick and Morty. It's like trying to make Ren and Snippy a melodrama. Beth is just the worst. Her denial of reality isn't funny or endearing. It's problematic. I've heard Reddit fans for feeling season 3 was so much Beth and Jerry was because it's real. Yes, because we were absolutely asking for reality in our science fiction show about a drunk scientist fighting against the devil, making potions that turn people into menaces and giraffes. I watched this kind of show for hard, gripping, real-life drama. And I guess the giraffes are just there because. Distance from reality is what Rick and Morty should be going for, not proximity to reality. Because if you have to think about the implications of the show, you couldn't enjoy it. Rick has an entire universe enslaved to the power of his car. When that's his setup, why would I care about how he feels about his daughter? And my god, if that wasn't bad enough, it's how whiny Beth is. Every line of dialogue in this episode specifically is just Can I see that moment from the season 3 opener when Beth was exploded as a kid? This is the most heartwarming moment of the show. It's the only time it ever made me feel the warm fuzzies. Oh, what? Was that too dark for you? Okay, let's go back to the show where one of the main characters is willing to nonchalantly commit genocide, and we're supposed to feel for him. What I'm saying is that Rick and Morty ain't Nolan, or at least it shouldn't be.
That's not really an unpopular opinion, Enter. I'm pretty sure everyone agrees that Roy's parents are terrible people.
But that wasn't the point of his unpopular opinion series, though. He never said that it was an unpopular opinion to say that Beth and What's-His-Face are bad people. Instead, the unpopular opinion aspect of his video stemmed from the fact that he thinks Pickle Rick is a bad episode. I know that because that's literally what Mr. Enter says in his video.
And I know that I'm not the only one who hates hates this episode. It's a pretty strange way to start off this unpopular opinions marathon. But Pickle Rick also does tend to be quite loved. It has passionate people on both sides. So, allow me to make it up to you guys. Next time we're doing Your Name, the highest grossing anime film and the most beloved work of Makoto Shinkai, who has been lauded as the next Miyazaki.
Yeah, he says that a lot of people like Pickle Rick, so his unpopular opinion is disliking it. Then he says that his next video will be about Your Name, a very well-liked anime movie, so I feel like you don't really get where the unpopular opinion aspect of his video comes from. Granted, the clip I played was towards the end of the video, but still, if you didn't watch the entire video before making this video, then you really should watch the whole thing to prevent stuff like this from happening.
And just dragging it made me think you were off your meds. More forgive than little, because I don't know if you do take meds. Back to the point, you said what you're talking about was an unpopular opinion. For the most part, it is, but Morty's parents aren't one of them. An unpopular opinion would be like I found Morty's parents to be hilarious despite being unlikable people. And yes, that's my opinion. It's for the similar reason as Rick and Morty. The dad character for having the hots for Beth, and Beth for sometimes being over-the-top straight woman. Now that's an unpopular opinion.
Where does Enter say that Morty's parents being bad people is an unpopular opinion? This is strawmanning, plain and simple, because you're hitting a point that never existed in the first place. And yeah, that's all I've got to cover. I mean, there's still more to the video, but yeah, I covered what I wanted. So yeah, I guess I can sign off now.